Hello and welcome to the Sidekick Podcast with me, Tank. We speak with sport martial artists from all over the world to bring you their stories from beginning until the present day. Our guest on episode 10 is Damien Gormley. Damien runs the White Tiger Dojo in Ireland, has a massive hand in everything Irish Open, and also runs the famous White Tiger Challenge tournament. It's an absolute pleasure to bring to you Damien Gormley. Damien, welcome to the Sidekick Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. You're our third guest in our international series. I was having a chat with Chris Ashton and I mentioned the international series to him and he suggested that I drop you the message and here we are.
Yeah, no problem. No, I appreciate it and I appreciate the recommendation from Chris.
We've already discussed before we started that this is going to be a little bit different, this podcast, which is exactly what we're after.
Yeah, so, I suppose I am your average world champion kickboxer like all your other guests. But listen, we'll make a good show, I hope.
Yeah, we'll just roll with it, mate, and see where we go. So, okay, cast your mind back all them years and if we find out how you first got started in martial arts.
I suppose I was a late starter. I was a teenager before I started in doing any sort of martial arts. Me and a couple of friends went to a karate class and I met my now good friend Martin O'Malley and we did Shotokan karate for years and it was a 90-minute class and the last 15 minutes was always the bit of kumite and sparring, and so I went through the other hour and 15 minutes just to get those 15 minutes of kumite and sparring. I did that for a number of years and then we decided to kind of venture into two separate clubs where one was based on sport karate, point fighting, and one was going to stay traditional karate. And I moved over, still under the White Tiger umbrella, which was the name of the club.
Yeah.
I eventually took over that side of the club, opened my own class. And then in 2009, in the Christmas of 2009, myself and Martin joined forces and we opened a full-time academy where we still have it 10 years later. And we both teach in there on different nights. And I've been teaching ever since, competed a bit along the way, refereed a bit along the way, coached a bit along the way. Yeah. And here we are.
Is that when you knew that your passion was in teaching?
At the very start, so there was three of us that were the same age and then a fourth friend joined very soon after. And in the competitive side of the sparring in class or whatever, it was always close. They were all, we were always close in ability. So I wanted to kind of be ahead as best I could from when I was younger. So I got a grade ahead of the guys early on in our, I suppose, career or in our time training. And I started to teach or do the warm-up with Martin because I was the highest grade. And then I always stayed one ahead, but I just developed a passion for teaching and I loved it. And when Martin offered me the opportunity to teach by myself, I took it with two hands. And we opened up and I opened up my own club and teaching has always been something that I liked.
Yeah. How hard was it getting White Tiger off the ground, like your own side of White Tiger? Because I think some people who are black belts or coming up towards black belts only see success in the clubs or martial arts centres that they're in and they don't necessarily see the struggle that gets it off the ground initially.
Yeah, so if you imagine the town we were in had a huge karate club at the time and everybody would have known that if you want to do karate, you go to this venue on these days, and that was it. Yeah. And we, at the start, nobody had heard of us, and we were a small club. And over the years, we've slowly but surely our name to the top of the pile. And now, if somebody mentions karate in our area or martial arts in our area, White Tiger would come to the forefront.
Yeah.
I suppose we were always very smart. Martin, more so than me, he was very good at writing to the papers and putting articles in the papers and giving all information that we had, whatever was going on in the club. Everything went in. And I suppose the name just built. And it, we have good protocols. We're properly registered with governing bodies, Kickboxing Ireland, Karate Ireland, and everything. And we try to keep everything above board as best we can, keep everything right. And that way our name has just developed, and we've been lucky. Obviously COVID has had its huge implications for every martial arts club in the world, let alone us, but we were getting through it. We're going to come out the far side. But building the name at the start, to go back to your question, it wasn't easy. And even for me myself, when I ventured out, it was difficult. But a lot of people helped me along the way. A lot of my martial arts friends came to seminars and different things like that. But I suppose hard work and time was the main things that got the name, built the club, got it off the ground.
At your martial arts centre, you don't just offer kickboxing, you also offer sport karate. I think it's Matsubayashi Ryu.
Yes, yeah. So that's an incredible. Yeah. It's actually an incredible story how Matsubashi became part of our organisation. Martin was a black belt for years, and he decided that one of his dreams was to go to Okinawa to train.
Yeah.
So he booked a flight, and he was part of a Heim Kumdo association as well, which is a Korean sword martial art. And the president of this Heim Kumdo association invited him to Korea. So he went to Korea to train, and then he went down to Okinawa, and he contacted a karate club in Okinawa. And little did he know, he was actually talking to the founder of Matsubashi Shorin-ryu's son, and he got to train with him. And he came back, he contacted me, rang me, and he was like, this was the most incredible experience. I've been this many years doing Shotokan karate. I have one trip to Okinawa, and he wants to change. He wants to learn the Matsubashi style. So Shotokan and Matsubashi are like brother styles. They were like two friends who separated, and one became very famous one way and the other became very famous the other way. So believe it or not, Martin then went back to Okinawa twice a year for the last 10 years, trained under the actual founder's son, who has passed away since. And Martin is the last ever Westerner that was accepted into the Nagamine dojo, which is the head dojo in Okinawa. Yeah. And now he goes in, he gets to train in that dojo twice a year. And all the European Matsubashi clubs then get Martin over for seminars, and he gets involved. So yeah, it was a pretty amazing how he ended up doing change in styles. But within our club, we teach kickboxing. I teach point fighting completely. That's all I teach. Martin teaches Matsubashi Shorin-ryu, and he also teaches Savate, which is French.
That's a French kickboxing, yeah.
We have got still have a bit of Heim Kundo, and we have what we call Tiger Cubs, which are baby classes. So we do both karate and point fighting versions of Tiger Cubs as well. And then one other guy uses our dojo, and he teaches gymnastics, and that's it, yeah. So,
yeah. Any plans to get into any other martial arts?
Not really. Time consuming. It's not my full-time job. It's not Martin's full-time job. So we just try to keep everything as we can and stay open the way we are, I suppose.
Okay, so Irish Open, if we can speak about that for a minute.
Yeah.
What year did you start attending the Irish Open?
I competed in the Irish Open in the year 2000 and 2001, 2002. 3, 4, and 5. I suppose I haven't really competed much since 2005. Competed as a novice, and I competed as an intermediate and as a black belt. The best I ever did was I got a silver in the intermediate in 2002, and my last fight in the Irish Open was 2005. I actually fought Peter Edwards, of all people. That was my last Irish Open fight. And then my own students then started to compete in it in probably 2005, 2006, 2007. And then in 2009 was when the Irish Open changed for me. It became something completely different. Yeah. So in 2009, I went to the Irish Open, and I would have, prior to ever doing what I do now at the Irish Open, I had huge respect for Roy Baker. I always had a good relationship with him. When I was starting out my club, he was very good with SAP gear and top 10 gear, and he would always look after you with credit, and he was just really helpful to small clubs like me starting.
Yeah.
So the only way he ever asked for payback was come and help referee and help out at the Irish Open because it's the biggest animal of an event in the world.
It is.
So in 2009, I was refereeing on the Saturday all day, refereeing all day on the Sunday. And just by pure stroke of luck, the area I was working on happened to be a Grand Champion area.
Yeah.
And Christian and Zolt Muradi from the Corrali team were both injured.
Yeah.
And they pulled out of the Grand Champion event. So Roy asked them to help referee on our area. And I was on the area as well. And as it turned out, I ended up refereeing a full quarter of the Grand Champion. So in those times, Grand Champion was split over 4 areas. And you had a winner on each area, and they were your semi-finalists.
Yeah.
So our area I worked the whole way through the whole section with those 2 guys. And I was a good referee, but I'd never refereed at anything big. I'd never refereed in any big fights or big tournaments or world championships. This was my first time doing anything of this magnitude. And then it got to the semi-final stage. And as happens now, as happens at every tournament, the best referees are selected. And that was fine. So I knew I wouldn't be selected. I was wearing a pair of jeans and a shirt. But I was delighted that I was going to get a good seat to watch the last 4 fights, the last 4 people, should I say. And the next thing I seen Istvan Corrali and Raymond Daniels speaking to Roy. And obviously, the 2 Corrali lads had said to Roy that I had done a good job. And then Raymond had been on my area, so I had refereed his fights.
Yeah.
So the next thing, Roy came over and said, they've asked you to still referee at this stage, so in you go. So into the deep end. And I refereed a fight between Laszlo Gombos, who was just coming up as a kid, and Raymond in his prime. And from that moment on, then I suppose I became a referee. And Roy then, after the Irish Open was over, invited me to go as Ireland's official to the WACO World Championships in Italy. And while in Italy, then I got selected to go to the very first ever Sport Court Games in Beijing as a referee.
Okay.
And that was probably the most incredible experience I've ever had in martial arts. Just to see something of that size, like from the minute you got off the plane, it was like it was the Olympics. There was posters everywhere. You were treated like a VIP everywhere you went. And then when I came back from that event, I suppose Roy, he phoned me and he said he wanted somebody to be the chief referee at the Irish Open. Would I take on the role? So I kind of had no idea what this role was going to be. And people don't see the Irish Open from the inside, and the inner circle, like the tiny little organizing committee of 6 or 7 people, like for somebody who isn't born into it or isn't part of Roy's, black belts, it's absolutely unheard of that somebody would be asked to, I suppose, have a role inside. But I was very, very lucky that he asked me, and I went in 2010. Was my first one, which was the first one in City West. I think it was the first one in City West. Anyway, and I was there for that, and I took on the role, and I kind of developed then over the the first year I was just the chief referee. I still refereed, I was still on the peripheries of the organising committee as such. But I suppose I had to earn my way inside that. But people don't see it. Like, people wouldn't believe the amount of work that Elaine Small, Ilya Salerno, Colin O'Shaughnessy and his kids, who I'd say from the WKKC circuit.
Yeah.
Dara Gagan is one of Roy's black belts. Danny Slevin, Brahmandan, better known as Brahmandan.
Yeah.
That's the inner circle as such. And I was lucky that I got accepted into it. And now, 10 years later, it's really tight. And I see the amount of work that they do, and that I don't think anybody sees. Roy himself would be shocked, I would say, if he's seen some of the work that's done and some of the problems that are never reach him, that are filtered. And But no, it's an amazing experience. I'm not the chief referee anymore, and you might ask me what my role is. I actually don't know. I don't think it has a term.
Well, when I asked Chris, I said to Chris, what is his actual role? And he said, I don't know. He said he's kind of the fixer type of thing. So if you need anything at all, then you see Damo, was his words, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose, like, some people would say I was an event coordinator. I'm not an event coordinator. No. And somebody else would say, oh, you're the floor manager. I'm not really that either. All decisions about moving sections, all decisions about changing things, they're all done as a group, like. So yeah. I don't particularly manage it. A fixer is a good word, I suppose. I live in the grey. So everything should be black and white, and it is. But sometimes you have to do the right thing. Sometimes you have to think about the organizer. Sometimes you have to think about some kid who's flown from Chile to fight, but he missed his fight by 5 minutes. And you're trying to accommodate those things.
Yeah.
Let's see, will the guy who got that bye fight him? Or, will the coach agree that we can do this now? And, even though somebody might have missed something. Or I just try and resolve things. And I try and help. And I just try to keep within the rules, which at the Irish Open are WACA rules. But the problem you have there is it's an open event. So sometimes you have people from other organizations, other rule sets. So you're trying your best to make them, understand why you're making decisions and different things like that. But I actually couldn't tell you. If you asked me what my role was, I don't know. I'm on the organizing committee. I do weigh-ins with the guys on Thursdays. We lay mats together. We do everything. But I suppose conflict resolution is one way of putting it, or fix it another way of putting it. Yeah. But we just help. And because Roy is so, I suppose, such a figure in martial arts, he can't be down on the mats where two of his friends might be arguing, or where over something like as two coaches, and then he's seen to have taken sides. So I think he needed somebody he could trust that would have his best interest at heart, would have the event's best interest at heart, would live within the rules, but might bend them ever so slightly to make things work. And I guess it's just a skill set I have, and that's what I do. But I suppose I definitely amn't some of the names that you would put out, like event coordinator, stuff like that. That's not my role as such, but I'm part of.
Yeah, there's no
I'm
official
part of a very
role.
small team. Yeah, I'm part of a really small team. We all know our roles. I know if I make a decision, the guys will back me up. It's one thing I have to always say about them. They're always there, like Shoggy, Ilya. There's been times where things have got hairy at the Irish Open, where people are getting really feisty, and the guys will just appear out of nowhere and stand at your back. They don't even say anything, and you just know these guys have my back here for whatever decision I make.
So you mentioned you were there early on, early 2000s. What was it like back then compared to now? I'm not talking numbers wise, because we know that the numbers are astronomical now. When we spoke to Robbie Lavoie yesterday, I asked him about the difference between tournaments in America to like something like the Irish Open, and he just said the numbers at the Irish Open are crazy. He said it's massive. But if we set numbers aside, what's it like in terms of quality of fighters back then to now, or the way it was organised back then to now?
It's always been the same. So it's always been an animal, and it's always been a monster tournament. And when it was in the basketball arena, which at the time was Ireland's biggest venue for sport, it could take you 20 minutes to walk from one side to the other. It was that big, as in crowd-wise. And proportionately, even if it was 50% of the size it is now, you still had the Jason Borelli Tankston, you still had Raymond Daniels, you still had the All-Stars, you still had Team SWAT, all of the top players, all of the top fighters, they were all there. Yes, now you've got this astronomical sized event where teams bring 100 fighters, but the top teams have always been there. And in my time anyway, from the late 90s, early 2000s into what it is now, but proportionately it's always been the same. But the key for me is those 6 people I named earlier, with another 10 people outside of them and another 10 people outside of them, they've always been there. So the work that they do now could be something that came up in 2003, was a problem in 2003. They remembered it, and then it has changed every year. It evolves.
Yeah.
The introduction of sport data was something I didn't think could work at the Irish Open. As somebody on the ground, I thought it was too big of a monster for that, but it has been a revolution for us. And it has been amazing to watch it develop with the technology. And even this year's Irish Open was different again, with the scanning barcodes, and everybody had their own QR code. And it is growing with the times. It doesn't stand still. And the people at the nucleus of it don't stand still. Like this time last year, November, December, there was a huge amount of talk in group chats of testing things, testing weighing scales, testing scanners, stuff that nobody sees 3 months in advance.
Yeah.
And you see the guys talking to each other and testing different things and working on different things. And, but the organization has always been really good, even though it was on paper 20 years ago. Now it's on sport data, but it has always been the same, and it's just proportionately growing. But the nucleus team has not changed, bar 1 or 2 people in or out over the years. And that, to me, is the key to the Irish Open. It's not anything else. It's not who comes. It's not the amount of fighters, the amount of technology. It's that nucleus team is what keeps that event together.
How long after an Irish Open event would you be looking towards the next one?
On the Sunday night of the event, Roy would bring us to dinner. And at that dinner, somebody would bring it up, and it would be, we need to do this next time.
Yeah.
And then there's discussions all the time. Like, that group chat never dies. Like, the group chat, the Irish Open group chat that I'm in, we call it the COVID group chat now, because we're always talking about different things in it. But there's always something. But people, the punters and the participants and the parents, they start messaging the page within a week of it finishing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, people, I don't know, people are always contacting it's all year round. And it's just a shame we won't have it next year. It's very strange, but listen, we'll be back.
People book a year in advance. They really do. I was going across this year, and by anyone else's standards who is not aware of the Irish Open, I will have booked it well in advance. But because it was the Irish Open, I just couldn't get a room. And that was maybe, May? Something like that. I had to go down a bit of a different route to get a room, which I eventually got one, but we're not there now. So it makes no odds. How did you come to the decision then, for the 2021 Irish Open to
the HSE? HSE, the Irish version of the NHS, actually turned it into a standby hospital, and their contract is until April of 2021. And we're in a tiered system similar to your tiered system, except it's levels. And even at level 1, we couldn't hold the Irish Open, and we're currently living in level 3.
Right.
But even on level 1, the Irish Open wouldn't be able to go ahead. And like you said, so many people book flights, hotels and everything. The decision just was made. Roy, Ilya and Elaine, I think, had a discussion and made the call. And it's the correct call. As disappointing as it is for all of us, it is the correct call.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Irish Open has a cult following, and it has done for years. But when Roy first started out even in the basketball arena, which was massive, were the aspirations ever to make it this big, do you think?
I actually don't know.
No.
I think it just snowballed. And like I said to you, a problem found in the early years was just taken on board, the same way as if you come to the Irish Open with your martial arts school once, you're going to come again. And the problem is that happens absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
And my job, as we discussed earlier, is I would try my damnedest that everybody has a positive experience, because at every martial arts event in the world there's conflict. So it's important that the people leaving, they did their best to resolve the issue I had. So we tried to leave everybody with a positive taste. And I think because of that, it grows and grows and grows and grows. Like, could it grow any bigger than it is now? He capped it at 4,000 entries. You know, that's down to time.
Yeah.
Like, it's capped at 4,000 entries, and that's down to time. Like, we're now starting fights at 2 p.m. on a Friday. We used to start fights till 12 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, it's grown by 24 hours in the last couple of years. And, like, to be honest with you, registration closed on Thursday night last year, with the exception of a few on Friday morning. I think it opened till 12 on Friday. But that might have to change. We may have to start at 10 a.m. on Friday morning, which is mad. You know, and it's like, you've no idea you're feeling on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after an Irish Open. Like, everybody gets sick. Like, they call it in the group, like, the Irish Open sickness, like, you know. And, like, you're down. You're absolutely wiped for days.
Yeah. It's not the beer at the end, no.
No, there's no beer. That's the matter. Like, there's no beer. Like,
yeah.
I can't, like, I would stick my head in to say hello at an after party, but, like, you know, you're in a hoodie, you just want to go to bed. Like, you're absolutely zonked after what is a huge event, I suppose, you know.
Yeah. Okay, if we move on to the White Tiger Challenge, which is a tournament that you run. What year was it when you first put it together, and was it first started as an inter-club, or did you intend to be what it has become?
So, the WOMAs, have you ever heard of that event? I'm sure you have.
The WOMA, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was a fighter, that was probably my level. So I fought in the WOMAs maybe 3 or 4 times, won a few, lost a few. Fought Lee Charles, actually, he was on your podcast. I fought Lee Charles.
Yeah,
I fought Lee Charles at a White Tiger WOMAs as such, that we hosted. So in 2000 and, I'm going to say 7, I'm not 100% sure, I think it was 2007, the WOMAs were looking for a host in Ireland. And this hotel in the town I'm from had just been built. Now, it was actually built, they were hoping to use it as a sports hotel for countries that were trying to acclimatise for the Olympics in London. So it was kind of built in conjunction with all the stuff around the Olympics.
Yeah.
And it's a huge sporting arena, rooms that can cater for 4 and 5 people, like the perfect venue for a tournament. So we ran the WOMAs, and it was only Martin, more so, to be fair, Martin and his team more so than me. I only turned up on the day, and it was at that event that I kind of realized I had this skill set that has developed at the Irish Open. Skill set to see Area 1 is running slow, but Area 2 is running fast. Let's take something from 1, bring it to 2. Let's resolve whatever issues we have. Stuff like that. On the floor tournament management, basically. And at the end of it, Martin said to me, we could do something. We could build something. And I was like, nah, I don't have the interest in that. So then the following year, the WOMAs were supposed to run somewhere, I can't remember where, but they got let down at the last minute. So we actually ran them again. We ran them 2 in a row. And it was after that one I said, you know what? We have the people, we have the venue, we have the skill sets, I have the contacts, let's do it. So no, we didn't do anything for a year or 2. Then in 2011, I decided I would test an event. So I contacted my good friend Jay Daniels. I'm sure you know Jay.
Yeah.
He brought his club down, and I asked another local kickboxer, a phenomenal kickboxer called Desi Leonard. He has won numerous titles, and I said, I'm going to run this inter-club. Will you bring a few from Sligo, from Desi's club? His dad runs the club. Jay brought a few, and I said, you guys then, we'll do a bit of a show fight between Desi and Jay for all the kids, so that my kids who've never been to a tournament, who just trained, could see what, you know, they could do.
What elite level athletes are like.
Exactly, yeah. So we ran the tournament, we had the medals, a few t-shirts, everybody was happy, and it was ran in a third of the hall. We had 3 tatamis in a third of this arena. It was a 5-hour event. We did something where the kids from Jay's club got a swim and a lunch and everything for like £5. So they all went to the pool. It was just, and all the parents said, it's amazing, such a good event. And at the time, I had a good relationship with Dave Maddock from the Mad Dogs.
Yeah.
Just for no other reason other than as a referee, I met him on the circuit, got to know him. And he said to me, if you run an event, I'll come. And I was like, okay. So I said, right, I'm going to do this. So the next year after that, so 2012, I think 11 I did the tester. No, 12 I did the tester, and 13 was the first real one. And we went, and he came. Dave Maddock came, and loads of Irish clubs supported me. It still wasn't a big tournament. And everybody had positive vibes. And then each year it has grown. But it's extremely different to any other tournament. Like, it's friendly. I do everything I can to be friendly. Little things like everybody who stayed in the hotel got a goodie bag left on their bed. That's one thing we did.
Yeah.
The Grand Champion, it's in Ireland, it's extremely difficult to get people, seniors, to compete. It just doesn't happen. So I started I had a handicap Grand Champion, like a golf handicap, where somebody, like, for argument's sake, Robbie McMenemy fought in it. And he started his fight 5 points down. So the other guy was 5-0 up. That was just something I came up with to try and get people to fight. So it meant that people like intermediates who wanted to have a go in a Grand Champion had a chance. So we did it over 3-minute rounds, 1 round, 3 minutes, and that was it. So everybody had a handicap. So let's say Jay Daniels and Robbie fought, just as an example. Jay, for whatever reason, he was -3 points in all his fights, and Robbie was -5 points. Then Robbie had a 2-point head start, or Jay had a 2-point head start on Robbie, and it just snowballed. It was just good fun. But as it grew, then, and Elijah started to come over, Chris came over, Ryan Marlowe fought in it, different people from England came. That system became a bit flawed because I didn't know everybody, so it wasn't very fair then. So then I came up with a tournament, my Grand Champion, known as the Challenge League. And basically it's a round robin, like a Champions League. So there could be we'll work off, there's 10 people in your section. So there are 10 people in your section, 2 pools of 5. You fight everybody in your pool, and then the top 2 fighters in each pool go into a semi-final. That's how it works. However, your number is drawn out at random. So you could end up as, we'll say, somebody who's an intermediate fighter and you decided to enter. You could end up fighting the number 1 fighter and the number 2 fighter back to back, just the way you fall in the pool. And there's no break. Like, so if you're fighting back to back, you're fighting back to back. And Roland Verez and Christian from Corrali team were there a couple of years ago, and they were both still actively competing, and said it was the toughest thing they'd ever done and ever competed in. And it usually evens itself out. But you can have shocks and different things. Like last year, one of the guys from Carl Thomas's club, Jake O'Connor, he beat Chris Aston in it.
Yeah.
Now, Chris went on to win the tournament, but in the pool stage, Jake won a round. But like, the place erupted because an underdog beat somebody who was, like, Chris was undefeated all year.
Yeah.
And then Jake beat him. And it was simply down to the type of a tournament. It was a 1-round fight. You could be fighting back to back. Everything, was just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, and Jake beat him. And it was an incredible experience. Everyone was chanting and singing. And it was just, Chris still, as we'll say, the number 1 fighter in the section, still came to the top and still won.
Yeah.
But everybody had a chance. It's a fighting chance. And I suppose I wanted to build something like, nothing will compete with the Irish Open. So anybody who says, I'm going to build a tournament to compete with the Irish Open is absolutely off their head. And I have that's never my intention. I wanted to be the best tournament in Ireland that wasn't the Irish Open, because I don't consider the Irish Open to be an Irish tournament, if that makes sense.
I can see where you're coming from there. It's international tournament,
And I wanted something that top clubs would bring their intermediate fighters to, and not just their elites. So for argument's sake, the Corrali team will come to the Irish Open. They've got 30 fighters, but they're all elite. I wanted the guys they've never travelled, I want them to come to the White Tiger Challenge. But anyway, unfortunately for the White Tiger Challenge, and I suppose the bad news is the hotel, which is perfect for tournaments. You can sleep 5-6 people in these rooms. It's just a team hotel. It's amazing. Yeah. And the second very fancy hotel on site. But the bad news is they've sold it. The hotel is being turned into something completely different. So the 2021 White Tiger Challenge, if we get to go ahead, is going to be the last one. So many people have said to me, just move it, just go somewhere else. But I'm a realist. I know that the hotel and the venue are 30% of why people come. I know that the friendly atmosphere is 30% why people come.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a cult following for our medals and our t-shirts. I make these most unique medal designs, t-shirt designs.
Yeah.
I did one a few years ago where if you won this year and you won next year, your medals combined to make one medal. But if you only won one year, you wouldn't have known because it was a full medal.
It's okay. That's I like that, yeah.
Yeah,
because
and so
sometimes we go to tournaments and you get a medal and it gets thrown in the bag and whatever. Yeah. But no, I like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the best ideas that I had. I had a medal then a couple of years ago as well that was a spinner, so it just spun and it did something cool. Like, so the kids were like, "Oh my god, something completely different." And then I always have a unique T-shirt. Like it had the T-shirts get a bit of a cult following as well. Like there are some people who just wear them everywhere. And I was watching videos of Nikos Memos has this camp, and I look out there and there's Kevin Baldwin and his guys wearing my T-shirts, and there's Christian refereeing a fight in one of my T-shirts, and everybody wears them because they're just, I don't know, it's cool. Like they have a bit of a cult following, the medals and the T-shirts. But I won't sacrifice the name of the tournament just for the sake of running it. I would prefer people to go, do you remember the White Tiger Challenge? It was really good. Instead of, because I know the first one I do that isn't in this venue would be brilliant. It would be brilliantly supported, but then it will lose something. If I'm bussing people from the hotel to a different venue or to a normal sports hall, it's going to lose something. And I would need to find something perfect.
Is there nowhere else in another part of Ireland you could have a look at?
But then it defeats its initial purpose. The reason it was built in the first place was that my kids, because we're isolated in Ireland, we're in the West, my kids have to travel for everything and pay always, stay in Dublin, go everywhere. There's no tournaments. There are a few small tournaments, don't get me wrong, but there is nothing worthwhile that you don't have to travel to. And I don't want to be forcing, because I would have to get all of my volunteers who are all local, they would all have to come as well. So I'm not willing to sacrifice what it is for the sake of it. Now, I've had an offer from 2 people to take it on the road. So for argument's sake, we have a Sidekick White Tiger Challenge in Liverpool or wherever. People have asked me to do that. I have considered it. I already have the idea of what I would do with a medal or how we would make it work. But at the same time, I don't know if that's something I would like to do, but it's something I would consider. It's not. Yeah. It's not completely off the.
I'm sure there's a few in England who would take it on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I one particular person I was very seriously considering doing it with, and still might when COVID is over.
Yeah.
Because the thing about a tournament is, I spoke about the Irish Open earlier, about the 6 nucleus people in the middle or 7 nucleus people in the middle. But what there is outside of that are these people who work 10-hour days, hanging banners and putting mats down and making sure everything is safe. People who aren't necessarily on the organising committee, but work really, really hard. Like Roy has some volunteers that come in and work all day on things just at the event. And if you're to run something like an international event, those people are invaluable. You have to have a big team. And that would be something I would have to consider if I went somewhere else with the White Tiger Challenge. But let's hope I get one more and we can go out with an absolute bang,
Yeah. So is it a pre-registered event?
No. Another reason I don't do that either, I try to make it as friendly and easy and less stressful as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So registration I lay the first mat, you can come in and register. We offer family discounts. We make things as affordable as we can. We don't charge huge money. Everybody can just come register. If you come halfway through the day and you say, I might do an extra division. We'll do our best. Once the draw is not made, or once the draw can be amended, or your section hasn't started, we're trying, even though Roy himself gives out to me all the time because I do it this way, I'm trying to make it as user-friendly and as, as easy and just relaxed atmosphere. And that's the one thing everybody says that's different. It's just so friendly and relaxed. And that's what I try to do. So it's not pre-registered. You just turn up.
No.
Again, though, like the Irish Open, the only similarity to me and the Irish Open is the guys who run the Irish Open come and help me. Elaine, Ilya, Shoggy, Danny, they're all there helping me, doing draws, keeping an eye on things, fighting in it. Those guys have all nearly retired, bar one or two, but they fight in the team event every year, and it's absolutely hilarious. So for the final White Tiger Challenge, they've got to bye to the final. So they're going to be in the final waiting for whoever gets there.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, if it is going to be the last one, then I think we get as many people to support it as we can. I'll certainly be coming over if it's on. We'll try and bring a team from Liverpool. I'm from the White Tiger. What does the future hold for yourself in martial arts? Are you predominantly a coach, or is it promotion that you want to go into, or is it both?
I suppose in the last 18 months, I fell in love with coaching again. I have, within my own four walls, I have maybe 4 or 5 elite athletes, people who like to travel, compete internationally.
Yeah.
I have, when I'm at events, then some people like Chris, like Elijah Everill. We spoke about Robbie Lavoie was on last night. For some mad reason at last year's Bristol Open, I was coaching Robbie Lavoie.
Yeah.
And it's because I suppose people like Chris and Elijah, I have kind of both Chris and Elijah, I kind of have an official relationship with, where when we're at an event together, I look after them. I don't like to say the word coach them. I don't do that. I just look after them, sit in the chair, look after their welfare, make sure everything's okay. Elijah's dad contacted me a few years ago. I've always had a really close relationship with Elijah from when he was a kid. I always kind of looked out for him. We always got on. Me and his dad got on particularly well, and then it flowed down as Elijah grew up. But his dad contacted me a few years ago, and basically Elijah's coachless. Like, Lee is his instructor, will always be his instructor, but when he travels, he's coachless, and his dad doesn't always be there to look out for him. And his dad asked me, would I, keep an eye on him, look after him, because so many people he's elite now. He's probably the best point fighter in the world.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to jump on his coattails. And I think his dad was worried that, people were behind him for the wrong reasons, or for self-promotion or whatever. So I always would look after Elijah. And then by default, him and Chris are teammates, or sparring partners or training partners. So I started looking after Chris. I have a really good relationship with Christian from the Corrali team. We've always been friends. So I've actually, at some international events that he's not at, I would sit behind some of the Corrali athletes, even though there's a language barrier. I know the rules, I know the referees, and I try to, just look after them. So I really enjoy that. Then in my own club, I've got Brendan Kenny, who, again, didn't start with me, but he joined me a couple of years ago, and I'd probably argue he's one of the best light contact fighters on the planet. I knew nothing about light contact, no history in light contact, but I didn't need to. I know people, I know fighting, I know the rules.
Yeah. So
we've had a really good relationship, and myself and Brendan have gone to loads of huge events. He's an incredibly talented fighter. His work ethic is huge. So I've been looking after him as well the last few years, but more of a coach than I would be with the guys, because he comes to my club every week. So we have big plans ahead for Brendan, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying coaching. I'm enjoying martial arts. What the future holds, I don't know. I want to keep my club open. I want to help as many people. We have a motto in our club. It's more about, it's about punch. It's not just about punching and kicking. It's about everything else. Like, my greatest achievement in martial arts is we went to a tournament in America a few years ago for absolutely no reason other than to go and train for something big, go and fight, and then do a bit of traveling and a bit of bonding. And there's one guy in my club, one kid, when he joined me when he was 6, he didn't tell me his name for about a month. He wouldn't speak to me. And I was standing in a subway station in New York, and I watched him go to a machine at 15 years of age, using dollars, which he'd never seen before, buying his own subway ticket and hopping on the train, knowing where he was going and what he was doing. And he wouldn't tell me his name the day he came in. And that to me is a far greater achievement than watching some guy lift a 6-foot trophy because he won a fight. And martial arts is about so much more than punching and kicking. It's a lifestyle. And to see somebody like this kid develop, lose all of his shyness, come to the biggest city in the whole world and look after himself with a foreign currency, I knew I was doing something right.
Okay, so just before we come to an end, is there a website or a Facebook page that people can go to for the White Tiger Challenge and see what it's all about?
So I don't have a website, really. The Facebook page, just White Tiger Challenge, is where everything goes. So hotel promo codes. I didn't finish earlier when I was saying the only thing that resembles the Irish Open is we sell out quickly, but we have alternative accommodation in other towns or whatever. So that's a really good place to get all your information. I put everything on there while the tournament is running. That's where the running order goes. That's where everything happens. And we do have an Instagram page. Wouldn't be as active. It's still active enough, but again, it's just White Tiger Challenge. But listen, we hope to run it. The page, I run it kind of by myself. I have a few people that would look at it as well, but mainly me. So I will always reply as quick as I can. We try to be as helpful as we can. The sections are always very similar. Slight changes every year, but nothing dramatic. I run sections for novice, intermediate, and advanced. That's something that I wanted to make sure always happened. Novice, intermediate, and advanced is always something that we're very strict on. I also do a below novice, like a beginner section for small kids. So like kids who've never fought before or are afraid to fight or whatever. We have a special dedicated area for them as well, where their parents can go inside the barriers with them. That's something that I absolutely do. I try to get them all 2 fights. Doesn't always happen, but we try. We try to give them all something as, participation or whatever, just to build it up for them,
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Well, Damien, I think we've come to an end there. It's been fascinating, mate, listening to you. Really has. I'm really glad we got you on, and hopefully I can get out there and see you at the White Tiger Challenge in 2021.
Appreciate that. You'd be very, very welcome.
Fingers crossed, mate. Thanks very much.
Don't wear a Liverpool shirt, pal. Not allowed.
I will try not. It depends whether we win again this year.